Coughlin Printing, and we are here above Public Square. As you can see, it's somewhat of a slightly cloudy day. It was sunny earlier. Beautiful April day here in the North Country, and there is Joe Wessner. And Joe, big things happening. You just found out that your big plan to have art on the walkway, the Veterans Walkway, is taking shape. You got a sponsor, and it looks like things are coming in for that. We talked about that last time. Joe, elaborate on that if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, what we're trying to do is bring art into downtown. We want to bring a lot more art, sculptures, murals, things like that. And we were starting with the Riverwalk downtown because we want to include the river in downtown. We want to make the river into a destination. And we have that really nice Riverwalk that was built down there 20 years ago.
Oh, at least
25 years ago, something like that, through a grant. It's a little used park. People don't know a lot about it, but there's a lot of history right there. And there's this 20-foot tall, 492-foot wall, just a concrete wall at one end of it. And I've gotten together with like several different people and groups that are interested in putting murals up on that wall. So we came up with a system to do it. We asked the city if we could do it. They said yes. We just have to approve the plan with them. And our first piece of art is already commissioned.
Wow.
We've got a sponsor for it, Lori Javera over at the Keller Williams team.
Yeah, right here in Public Square. Sure.
Yeah, she's sponsoring the first piece of art. And what that's going to be is we found an artist in Potsdam. She's a part-time art teacher at Potsdam and St. Lawrence colleges. She also works in a museum. And she does paint-by-number murals. So she's going to sketch out a mural for us, and it's going to be a paint-by-number. And what we're going to do is have the public come in and paint some of that mural.
That's fascinating.
As a fundraiser.
So they'll do the grid, if you will, or they'll lay it out, and then
Right.
people, and then have the proper paint and the color coordination. I'm just talking out loud here, Joe. So people can physically. It's almost like signing something for a community effort, and everyone signs it. In this case, everyone has some contribution as far as painting. Boy, that's a bit. You got to know what you're doing, though. You got to paint between the lines, Joe. You got to get the right people to do that, right?
Well, anybody can do it. I mean, once we set it up, it's not going to be on the wall.
I don't know about everybody. Oh no, it's not going to be on the wall.
No, it's not going to be on the wall. So you don't have to worry about doing it on a ladder or anything.
Right.
What we're going to do is we're putting it on 4x8 aluminum panels. They're actually
Well, you were saying that.
an aluminum plastic kind of hybrid panel that they use for signs and for advertising and things like that.
Right.
Which really works out well because we can take one of the panels and have it painted, and then we can bring in a new panel and have it painted.
Right.
And we can do it right on the ground or just up at table level or something, so people can do it, and you don't have the liability of having people on scaffolds or scissor lifts or anything like that.
Right. So it's the actual painting itself takes. Where's that going to take place? Right down there, or at another another remote location?
We're looking at partnering with a couple of organizations who have events downtown, and during their events, doing the paint by number there. We want to do it just to get the public involved in it,
right.
to get some excitement generated in it, and then when the picture's done, then the people who painted it are going to want to go down and see it. So it's one of the best ways we could think of to market the idea.
I totally agree. And obviously, it's one of many things that we'll talk about right now. But this is something that we discussed a couple of weeks back. And so the Veterans Walkway is the forgotten entity in downtown. Like you said, over 25 years ago when it was built on the beautiful Black River. But getting people and interested in something that's no less than maybe 250 yards from where we're sitting right here. It's a challenge. So art is always a great way to do that. And then having people partake and participate in it. So is this a brainchild? Is this what you came up with, or are we? Did other areas or townships do something similar to this, Joe? This is a great idea.
Other towns do murals.
Right.
Other towns do art in their downtowns. I don't know of many that are doing quite what we're doing.
Right.
Because in most towns, what you'll do is you'll do a mural. It'll either be one mural on one wall or a series of murals on a long wall that has definite delineation in sections. But this is all one continuous wall. So this is the first time that I've heard of anybody making it into a gallery
Right.
of different art. And then we're going to be changing the art out. One of the great things with putting it on panels is we can change it.
Right.
So we can either auction off some of the art.
I was gonna say, you
or,
could- yeah.
if we have, say, a school come down and teach outdoor art to their students, we can have that art up for a year and then have it sent back to the school and have a whole new blank canvas for people.
I think it's a great idea. And again, getting people involved is, so again, this is all the warm and fuzzy stuff that, someone like yourself puts together. It's always a good idea on paper. It's always a good idea as far as a discussion like you and I are having. It's executing this, Joe. And we talked about this prior to today's show. Talk is cheap. So, and again, but you've gotten the artists, you've gotten a sponsor so far. Now we got to get people to participate in this. But looking forward, when you do something like this, when you have the panels that have been up there, what do you figure, about a year or two before they're exchanged, or do you have an idea of how long they would stay up there?
It depends on how long it takes to fill the wall.
Right.
I mean, we've got enough room for about 20 different pieces, 22, depending on what size they are.
Right.
Anywhere from 1 4x8 panel all the way up to one of them was like 6x5 panels.
So could you
it's
do
huge,
so? What I'm saying is, you have all those panels, and then you can auction them off, so that you're thinking ahead of yourself.
Right.
So, and the other thing is that if they're going to stay out there for say a year or two, they might be succumb to the elements. They might get faded. And you might realize, hey, you know what? This could be like Japanese yugen. Let's either let it stay there until it falls apart, let nature take its course, or we can auction it off and make money on the back end of things. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, Joe.
Yeah, make money to bring new art in.
Right, exactly.
Just keep perpetuating it.
Or just move the art to another location because it's forever to be seen. That's what art is all about. Okay, so that's the Veterans Walkway. That's a big plan. It's a great thing to draw attention to the beautiful walkway. Let me ask this, and maybe you don't have control over this, but I noticed the brush, the trees and the bush line on the other side of the fence overlooking the river where the Riverwalk is. That needs a lot of attention. And the biggest reason I don't want to, I'm not the type of guy to take down bushes and trees and whatnot. I'm a John Denver fan. But when I go down there, especially in the summer months, I can't see the river, Joe. So are they going to correct that?
Well, I know that the city, just when we started talking about the art project, the city started talking about things like improving the lighting down there,
Yes.
and just kind of like improving the maintenance down there a little bit at a time. And as the Riverwalk gets more used, then I think you're going to see more maintenance down there. It's just a matter of the chicken and the egg thing. We got to have people down there so that then the city has an excuse to do it.
Right.
And then if we're also generating income, maybe there's a way that we can offset some of the cost or something like that to help with that maintenance.
Could you? I mean, there's electric down there. I don't know if there's a cooker down there, but obviously that could be added. Is there a facility that can sell food out of there, Joe, that you know of?
But you can bring food trucks in easily.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it used
That's
to be a
very
road,
true.
so I mean,
Yeah,
it's
right.
wide open, and that's what our plan is. This fall, the end of September, we're going to have a festival down there, an art festival, to celebrate the art on the wall. Even if it's only 2 pictures, which right now I think we're on schedule to do at least 2, probably 3.
Nice.
And get an art festival down there where artists can sell their art. We'll have food trucks. We'll have music. We're looking to do some really interesting things, like maybe close off Arch Street and put a string quartet in the arch itself. I don't know if you know the arch.
Oh, the arch is beautiful.
Man, it's beautiful, and it's just acoustically perfect for that kind of stuff.
There's
Just something interesting, performing artists and things like that. Because eventually what we want to do is turn the Riverwalk into like an art park, if we can. Put sculptures in it, have more than just the murals at one end, maybe have murals at the other end. And finishing it off with that beautiful arch at the end of it is just about perfect.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. We used to have music on the square. A lot of times you go to Sackett's Harbor, they have like an orchestra, a philharmonic on the war grounds. 1812 What am I talking about?
Battlefield? The
Battlefield. Thank you very much.
Battlefield
Joe.
Park up there,
Battlefield
yeah.
Park, and it was something every Sunday. Could they entertain the idea of bringing entertainment and a little bit of wine and cheese for that matter? Remember that back in the days, Joe. You might not remember this, but right across the way they used to have Party on the Square, which would bring in probably not the greatest people in the world, but it's all based on the music and of course the atmosphere. Could they bring live entertainment there every say Thursday night on the Veterans Walkway?
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that we're intending to do over time. Right now we're on a 3 to 5 year plan to get the wall finished, just because of the sheer volume of art that's going to be on it.
There's a lot of art.
But yeah, definitely turn it into a yearly event. The festival down there, the art festival, bringing music in is definitely on the radar of the DBA. We want to do things like that. We want to utilize every part of the downtown that we can. You have Lochenauer Square over there that's not used for much. You have the public square park here that can be used for things. I don't know if music would be great for it because of the traffic noise.
Yeah, it's a little dangerous.
But definitely down in the JBUS Plaza, you have almost a natural amphitheater back there behind where the iron block used to be.
No doubt.
All that, right there next to EMSOL's. And you could definitely put bands up in there and just have a music festival kind of thing there. So yeah, we definitely want to make events happen that bring people downtown that don't require closing off part of the square.
Right.
Because that's what everybody does, and it's inconvenient, and it doesn't make a lot of friends when you do that. But if you could put things in other places to attract people to different parts of the square, yeah, then definitely. So yeah, we're trying to bring art in. This is the start of it. Bring it in, the murals, and then bring in the festival, and then try to maybe do a music festival at some point. Tie it in with our fall festival that we usually have around that time of year, and then bring the art up here. Because I've already have a couple of parties that when they heard that we were doing murals down on the Riverwalk, we're talking about, hey, what about a mural on this building? We're going to be doing work on it, and if we prep the surface for it, would you be interested?
So I mean, it's like it's catching fire, so to speak. It's spreading the word, and once you have the first panel or 2 or 3, like you mentioned, Joe. Maybe even some crazy things too, like any baby born between May and June, let's get a footprint of them and put it on one of the panels, whichever. Something that people can, but it's got to look good. It just can't be. And I'm sure you commission the right people out of Potsdam, and I'm sure in the future you'll get real artists who know what the heck they're doing. And then once that starts, now moving on, you talked about the events that are in Public Square, and I know some of them you don't have much to do with, but they are involved with downtown, and you're very much a part of downtown, being the president of the DBA, Joe. But those events, are we going to see the live musical events that the other organizations put together in Public Square, where they do have to close the northern side, or is COVID still restricting that this summer? Well,
I know Watertown First does the block parties.
Right, those are great,
and they were looking into that. I don't know what their final decision was on that. But I do know that there's a couple of new groups that are involved in music production and bringing live music to places that are also looking into, venues and things like that. One of the things that would really be helpful to bringing live music back into downtown Watertown would be getting the Performing Arts Center finished.
Yeah, sure.
Because then that gives you a year-round indoor venue for things, and then you also have the grounds of the Masonic Temple and the Historical Society that you can do things.
Well, and then who could forget? And it's going to take a while. They haven't started the rebuild yet, but the Aquatic Center at the YMCA. So, what do you think that's going to do for downtown, Joe?
Well, it's supposed to, from what I've talked to the YMCA, they said that, it is going to be a draw for people because the YMCA itself is a big draw of people.
Right.
COVID, of course, when it was shut down for almost a year, it was obvious that nobody was there. But you can definitely see that a lot of people go to the Aquatic Center with the new pools and things like that. They're not recreational pools. They're actually pools for exercise.
They're
not, kids just
not
splashing around, and
right.
it's not, like the public pools. So I think you're going to see a few more people coming downtown. People like the variety in their exercise. They like the trainers and things like that. I mean, Planet Fitness is good.
Yeah.
But they don't really have the trainers there all the time.
Exactly.
They don't have all the amenities that the YMCA has. And the YMCA is committed to being part of the community.
Oh, big time.
So, they've actually got plans for the building that include entrances and exits all over the place so that people can access downtown from the YMCA. They don't just pull in the parking lot, go in the front door, and come out. There's going to be an exit downstairs. There's going to be doors on either side of it so that people can go out and then come back and
Interesting.
get in their cars and leave.
Because the way the call center was, there was one way to get in, and actually there was two ways.
Yeah.
But it was very restrictive. And now I also see the plans, and I've talked to people that it's a sarcophagus now, just a typical building from the late '60s when they built it. No, hardly any windows, but it's going to brighten things up. It's going to have windows on the Arsenal Street side and on the entry side, so it's going to be a huge addition. Speaking of which, though, the Lackenauer, we did a commercial there, Lackenauer fountain there at the top of the square. Now, I know you're talking about the Veterans Walkway as far as artwork is concerned, and I know a very good artist did the Lackenauer fountain about, 8-9 years ago. Would that be part of the plan to refurbish that, as far as, artwork on the fountain, or replacing it, or, what would be your ideal idea, if you will, for Lackenauer Plaza?
I think Lackenauer Plaza could be utilized a lot better than it is.
I think so too. I'll give you my idea, but go ahead.
What's your
my idea is this: it's going to cost about $250,000-$300,000. Here's why. Randy Richardson, for instance, about 10 years ago, refurbished the Roswell Flower statue. Okay, so and that in itself costs over $100,000. The statue was already there, but all the concrete base and the planters and so forth, that needed some refurbishing. Not to mention all the years, the decades of abuse on the statue itself, some from the acid rain and the salt. So a lot of money. So to commission someone to do something similar to that of a very famous person, and the famous person is Frank W. Woolworth, and you know where I'm going with this. It's the American Corner. It's the origins of the original 5 and dime idea, although others came up with it and people were selling here and there, like anything else. And like some people said, Edison wasn't the first guy to come up with the light bulb, but he certainly got the credit, just like F.W. Woolworth did, because he figured it out at the old Smith and Moore's location, right there where the old Woolworth building is located now. And he came up with the idea. He failed at another location outside Utica. He went to Pennsylvania. We know the whole story, and he created the Woolworth Empire, which included the tallest building in downtown New York City for over 16, maybe 18 years, until the Chrysler Building and whichever. So
anyway, Chicago.
What's that? No.
You said New York City. Were you talking about Chicago?
Oh no. Woolworth Building Woolworth Building in downtown. It's still there, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
Built in 1914 or somewhere thereabouts. So anyway, this guy came from Rodman. He lived on Franklin Street. He created the Woolworth Empire. And it's funny how we talk about how downtown areas of the entire world, in this country certainly, have been suffering with all the new challenges of getting people to shop down there. And we've had that challenge, many challenges right here, Joe. But isn't it ironic that the origins of mercantilism or discount mercantilism started right here? So he started the empire here in 1886, I believe, when the New York State Fair was up here, believe it or not, if you could believe that. And he took advantage of the new people that were coming up from New York City, and he had a lot of things right there on the corner, right there in the store, Smith and Moore's store. He didn't own it, but he was a young man there. And he said, hey, let's get rid of these items for 5 cents. Let's see what happens. And they all sold out within minutes. And they said, hey, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Let's get a bunch of, cheap items that are normally 15, 20 cents, 30 cents, and sell them for 5. And then he created the 5 and dime store idea. Then later he came back to Watertown, acknowledging Watertown. This is Frank W. Woolworth, by the way. And he built his headquarters here. That's why the Woolworth building is there. Not many people know that. They know about the new Woolworth building, which was built, I believe, in the late 60s, like we said. But the old Woolworth building was built in 1920, right around the same time the YMCA building was built. So he acknowledged where his roots came from. And to me, knowing how significant Woolworth was, it's going to cost a lot of money to build a statue. But I just think that's a great idea, Joe.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea to turn that into,
Got $300,000?
No, not today.
And I, by the way, I have no idea. I
am taking donations for the art project, though, so if you're interested in that. But.
Who knows? Maybe someone can draw a picture of the Woolworth building, whichever, just as inspiration, whichever. Okay, so we're talking to Joe Westner, the president of the DBA in Watertown. So we don't know in as far as live concerts. That's Watertown First is organizing that too, along I believe with the chamber. Anything else that's happening that people are excited about, should be excited about for Public Square in the upcoming months?
Well, right now I've been mainly focused on the art project. So I know we're really excited about that, and we're trying to get people excited for it. Summer's coming, so that's always a good thing. It really depends on COVID restrictions. I've been in contact with a lot of downtown managers over the past few months. And as a matter of fact, this month we're having 2 meetings just talking about what the restrictions are saying and what you can do in downtowns this summer for outdoor dining, for outdoor entertainment, and things like that. So, right now it's a lot of trying to figure out what the rules are before we can say, yeah, we're going to definitely do something. And the way it looks is that, you can plan things for later in the summer right now, but anything in the late spring, early summer is going to be tough to do because the restrictions, and we don't know if the rules are going to change or not.
That's true. Yeah. But Spokes, for instance, they have the old Strauss Walkway there. They converted that to outdoor dining. And they had limited success, it seemed, during COVID last summer. So I'm assuming they're probably going to open up there again, Joe, right?
Oh yeah, that's already open. Okay. They're already serving on the patio over there. Yeah.
I just think open air. Those are the new things that we've gotten accustomed to, especially down in New York City, where they're having cafes on sidewalks that weren't normally there. Are we at the end of this? I mean, I know this isn't a political segment, Joe, but I think we're at the end of the COVID tunnel. Don't you agree?
If it's tough to say. Yes, we should be because we've got so many people vaccinated now. True. The vaccinations are going like wildfire, which is always a big thing, which is always a good thing. You take care of the vulnerable populations first, which I think we've done fairly well. Some places are better than others with it. And just people now are hyper aware of the sanitation and the things that they never were before. So I think, and you've got a lot of fatigue. You've got a lot of COVID fatigue. People are tired of it. So as soon as they start lifting regulations, you're going to start seeing them fall really quickly like dominoes, which may or may not be a good thing. It's hard to say.
Right.
But we have the vaccine. Unlike a lot of people compare it to the Spanish flu back in 1918. The difference between that flu and COVID is we have a vaccine and they didn't.
They didn't.
So, when cases started falling back then, they all got together and celebrated and said, yay, we're free.
Right.
And they had an outbreak. But we're looking at, with the vaccinations and with all the people who've had it, survived it, and are immune now, or at least partially immune. I think that if there is another spike, it's not going to be as huge.
Right.
You're going to start seeing the restrictions being lifted as people are seeing that the numbers are going down steadily and staying down. So I think, all indications are that by the end of summer, we should be back to, something close to whatever normal is going to be. I don't think we're ever going to go back to, jamming people into, tiny little rooms and things like that. But we're definitely going to see a much looser restrictions.
I'm seeing, driving along Arsenal Street, and you can get the understanding of the flow of traffic and the amount of people going into, say, for instance, at Tully's, when you see the amount of cars that are parked right up to Arsenal Street from the entrance. That's a lot of cars. So I know it's, 75% or 50%? I don't even know the capacity limits now. But it looks like people, I'm not saying are breaking the rules, because that's a dumb thing to say. But I think there's a lot of people treating it as if the shutdown, or should I say the limitations have already been lifted, Joe. So again, that's, to me, I'm just being optimistic, of course, that people are eager, obviously, for over 13, 14 months now of this. Once this officially goes bye-bye, and already there's Major League Baseball stadiums that are up to capacity in Texas, so it might happen. Who knows? By June, hopefully by June, Joe, we can see everything back to normal again.
Yeah, I believe there was a study that showed that there's something like $2 trillion just sitting in people's banks accounts that they normally would spend. Right. That people are itching to spend.
Interesting, yeah.
So you'll see a huge spike to the economy when things open back up. I'm not saying don't be safe and just run out there and be crazy. Right. Don't turn into spring break like it did in Florida there. Yeah, right. But you're definitely going to see that pent up. That relief of the pent up frustration of being, locked down for so long and unable to do things.
Right.
So I think that you're going to see people going out, and I believe people are responsible enough that the people that aren't comfortable will distance and will
Right.
mask and whatever.
Right.
So I think you'll see people
That's a
being personally responsible a lot more than people are giving them credit for right now when things reopen. But like I said before, I don't think you're going to see it go back to what it was, 2018, 2019. I think it's going to be similar to what we're used to, but there's going to be differences. It's going to be like
there's no
after
doubt.
SARS hit Japan.
Right.
Everybody in Japan, not everybody, but a large percentage of people wear masks all the time now when they go out in public
Right.
in Japan. It's normal. So you might see people doing that, wearing masks all the time. You might see social distancing at certain events and limiting the number of people in certain venues happen a lot more often, just because we've realized that something we've known forever, that stuff spreads.
Oh, yeah.
That the contagion happens, and we don't want to get ourselves into that situation again. So I think you're going to see a lot of businesses, a lot of people starting to modify their behaviors to kind of like deal with that possibility happening again. And so I think just those behaviors and just those changes are going to be pretty prevalent in the future. But I think you're going to see the restrictions come off. I don't think you can hold back the economy.
No, you can't. And like you said, there's a lot of money melting or just sitting in people's pockets in bank accounts right now. But there's a lot of people that have been suffering, without jobs. Some people not able to pay their rent, and then of course those will be lifted too, as far as the whether or not you should be paying your rent to begin with. There's a lot of landlords out there, so that there's going to be a cascade effect with all that, a trickle down effect, I should say. Hopefully, there's a lot of landlords who live in Watertown. 60% of the rentals, or rather homes in Watertown, are rentals. It could be a house, it could be an apartment complex, whichever. That's a lot. I'm not saying everyone just walked away from their responsibility of paying their rent for the last year, but quite a few did. So let's hope that that's not going to have an adverse effect on our economy. The good news is that the world is burning in many areas, especially our larger cities, as close as Rochester and Syracuse has had some issue, along with Buffalo. We're not seeing that, and this is not a political show by any means. But Watertown going forward, and the real estate market, Joe, and I know a couple people who are in the real estate market. And I'm not just talking about waterfront properties for $400,000 or $500,000, but it's a bull market right now, and that's nothing but good news for us, Joe.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a seller's market.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. You're seeing houses that would normally turn over in 6 weeks, turning over in 3 days.
Right.
Right,
It's true.
right now the real estate people are busy as they've ever been, and that's good for us
Big time.
Because like I was saying before about about how people are going to modify their behaviors based on this.
Right.
You're also seeing companies do that too. With a lot of companies are realizing that having workers remote is actually good.
Yes.
It's actually working for them. And you're seeing a lot of people moving out of the larger concentration cities like Philadelphia, Boston, New York, things like that, and moving into the smaller cities outside. They're not even moving to the suburbs. They're moving to smaller cities.
Right.
So they still get that urban feel,
Right.
but they don't have that urban pressure. And if you look at our downtown, we have that urban feel here in the downtown space, but we definitely don't have that urban pressure here. We're still, as laid back as a rural town can be. So taking advantage of that is going to be key to any economy in a small city. Right?
No doubt.
Making sure that we have the infrastructure, the real infrastructure, not to be a political show, but,
Right.
Making sure we have things like, ready access to broadband and high-speed internet, good phone lines, a good transportation system to and from, so that if they have to go back into New York City or
Right.
or wherever they're from to, just to be there for a day or whatever and come back, make sure all of that stuff is set up so that we can continue with this type of economy. Because I think the new economy being, remote workers and gig work and things like that is really going to be beneficial for cities like Watertown, like Syracuse, like, all the little towns that are around. Might be detrimental to things like New York City and Philadelphia and things, but
Right. Well,
they always adjust and they always adapt. They
That's
have
their problem.
Forever and forever.
right.
But, there's no reason why somebody can't work for, say, Chase Manhattan or something like
Right.
that as a financial analyst and live right here in the city.
I agree.
I mean, you can buy a farm for what you could get a condo for in New York City. So,
Right.
why wouldn't you?
No, we had Alex Hammond in here, who's a town supervisor up in Waddington, along with Josh Todd, and this discussion came out, and we lose our greatest resource. Our kids got out of high school, we spend so much money, so much time, and they move to the Carolinas after either high school or college. They don't want to stay here, but there's a lot of smart people, and Alex had spoken to someone from the University of Wisconsin who said, there's some benefits to that because a lot of people are coming back after COVID. The big reset button, if you will, like they say in CNN or other areas, actually has its advantages for us because now people are saying, hey, I don't want to live in dangerous areas anymore. I want my children to live in a better environment. If it's for political reasons, safety reasons, financial reasons, whichever, it all collectively comes back like, hey, I want to go back home. The challenge is a lot of these people that have left here over the last 30, 40 years, back in their 20s and 30s, they're coming back to similar scenarios, but they'll move to like Vermont. So I'm going to move to Vermont. It's Northeast. It's not South Carolina anymore. It's not Florida, but it's closer to home. We got to bring them back here. It's all part of what they refer to as the brain gain. They leave, they realize how much it costs to live in a city outside Watertown, and then they get homesick or COVID happens and they realize, boy, maybe it's better to be back home. And now they're more more educated. They have more money in their pocket. And to your credit, Joe, they said, "Geez, I could buy a Victorian house for under $300,000. I'm going back home, Joe." And that seems to be the case these days. So that's an advantage for us.
Oh, absolutely. And it's something we really need to take advantage of and quickly because, we don't know how long this trend's going to last. Although for the past 10 years, there has been a trend towards younger generation looking for a small town that's urban.
Interesting.
So, they want that urban feel, but they don't want to be stuck in a giant city and the whole rat race.
Right.
Nobody likes a 2-hour commute to work. And back.
No, they get tired of that real quick,
Yeah.
and to realize that you could live and work in Jefferson County in a house that you can afford, taxes that are much lower, and more importantly, I don't know what's more important, the greatest school districts in the planet, in my opinion, because look around. I mean, our school facilities are awesome. They're the best. And you go to any other state, I'm sure they're just as, almost as good, but no one is as close to ours. So that's obviously what an urbanite living in a city like New York or Philadelphia obviously looks for. So that's obviously what they get.
And one of the things about our schools is the participation of the parents and the student body. In the bigger cities and things like that, you're drawing from such large areas that the participation for the parents and things like that is very low. And it's hard for them to get there and, all the pressures of the day and things like that. But I found up here that, our parents are the participation of the parents and things like that in the schools and the events and things like that is really high. And the people that are doing it are super dedicated to it. So, I mean, it may be only for the time that their kids are in the school, but, there's always that next person that takes over from them that's just as dedicated and just working as hard. And that's really the key to a successful school is when you get the parents involved, when it becomes a partnership between the parents and the school, then you get a successful school. If it's more of the schools just dictating and doing whatever they want, then you end up with, schools that are kind of all over the map.
Right. And then not teaching our kids.
Right.
And we see that, again, not to knock on the urban schools, but their grades are typically lower. And there's a reason for that. Well, Joe, final comments. A lot of things going on, obviously, at all given times. How long have you been the DBA president, and when will the first mural start taking shape for the Veterans Walkway, Joe?
Well, I've been the DBA president for about a year and a half now. And with the mural project, we're looking at the first piece of art, the paint by number. The outline should be done by the end of next month. And we should have it up on the wall by July.
Nice.
So we're working on a contract with the city right now to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted and all that, so that everybody knows what they're doing and what their responsibilities are and all that. So yeah, you should be hearing much more about it. We'll probably be releasing the sketch of the first painting sometime in the next few weeks.
The color by number?
Yeah, the paint by number.
Excuse me, paint by number.
The paint by number.
Yeah. Right.
Yep. So we already have that. And what what that piece is it's celebrating the inventions, the things that were actually invented in downtown Watertown. So we have a steam engine on there. We have the car freshener little tree on there.
Nice.
We have the safety pin on there. We have the irrigation system that Jane came up with. Yeah, we tried to get paper bags on there, but we couldn't quite figure out how to make them work on the painting.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wait. Of course you can. What do you mean? Why couldn't you get paper bags on a painting? I don't know, from the old Taggart mill.
Yeah. They didn't work in the design.
I guess not.
Yeah, so we'll work it out.
The other thing is shredded wheat. There was I forget his name, but he had issues with his digesting things. So he created the device that would actually take wheat or whichever and shred it so he can digest it better. That's not the best explanation, and many other things have been done here. But to me, I think Frank W. Woolworth should be part of a lot of murals and a lot of more recognition than what we're giving to him, other than that simple plaque that we have in the Woolworth building, because he was quite the man. He was quite a significant person in American history. So, Joe Westner, thank you for being with us today here on the H2O show, here at the H2O studios, overlooking beautiful downtown Watertown as we see a big truck go through the American corner. That's the American corner that I was talking about earlier. And to the right of this, on your right-hand side, that's where Smiths and More store was, where the Woolworth building is now, and that's where the original Five and Dime idea took shape a long, long time ago, as they said in a famous movie back in the 70s called Star Wars. Joe, thank you very much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we'll do this again real soon. And for everyone here at H2O Studios, I'm Glenn Curry. We'll see you soon on Facebook and on YouTube.